And again, once again, we're doing Making Music. I'm Jack Van Breen, your host from Guitar Showcase, as it seems to be always these days. We have joining us our new pro audio manager, our new old pro audio manager, Doc Green, laying down a little bit of a groove.
Yes, thank you.
And honored to have Mike Acosta, Roland clinician and internationally known DJ. And this week, we're talking about the kingship, the flagship of the Roland production line, the MV-8800. Just an amazing thing. Right here, we were just doing a little groove thing. Mike's not a drummer, he says, and yet great groove, playing the pads, playing the bass through the unit. You were talking earlier at lunch about sampling the bass into that, and then you could send him home and you could go do the gig.
Oh yeah, could totally do it.
Do I still get paid?
Of course, session.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
All right.
session.
It works for me.
Yeah, here's your 12-pack and your $30.
Is it still the 70s?
Inflation, it's 2 12-packs.
Of Diet Pepsi.
There you go.
Because we can't do the sugared stuff anymore. So this is, tell me about what this thing really is.
Well, the MV-8800 production studio is that. It's a full-on sample workstation. You have 128 MIDI tracks on here that you can sequence internal instruments, as well as this would be the centerpiece of your studio to record and sequence all your external MIDI modules, keyboards, anything that you got that has MIDI. This will be able to control it, sequence it all in here.
So that's 128 separate tracks, each of which have playing its own instrument, either internally or externally, simultaneously. I can't think of that many instruments.
Yeah, actually, neither can I, but I guess once you start getting in and doing some complex stuff, and then one thing that's cool about it is if you're playing one MIDI track that has multiple notes in it, and it could be something from percussion to anything, you can actually, the MV has a really cool function, which I'll show a little bit later, which will allow you to split note and break those out all onto separate tracks. So every single note that's within that one MIDI track can be separated onto its own track, whether it be for editing purposes or you need to send it out multiple outs.
Or have different effects on different parts.
Exactly.
Or fine-tuning individual tracks.
Exactly.
One of the things when I first started playing around with MIDI and synthesizers is the string parts sounded like string synthesizers, because as you play them as a keyboard player, it sounds like a keyboard player playing strings, and you couldn't do the individual cello, viola, violin parts because you didn't have enough tracks to deal with it. If you were lucky, you had 8 sequences.
Yeah, that was it.
So to be able to do 128, you could do every instrument in the orchestra,
and have
like
full
a triangle and the little chimey cymbal thing.
Oh yeah, and you'd have full editing capabilities over each one with piano roll editing, which the MV does offer, as you can see. It has a VGA output on it, which comes stock on the unit, so it lets you connect any VGA monitor that you have at home. Literally anything that you have already from a computer, you take that monitor and plug it right into the MV.
Turn this a little bit so that they might get a better shot of that. I'm not sure. We're dealing with the modern television thing here.
Yeah.
So we've got all the individual tracks up here.
Correct.
And then you can go in and edit them by placing different notes within the piano roll up here.
Correct, and you have full-on mouse control, so it's very familiar, especially for some guys. Typically before, like back in the day, somebody would start out with a little, drum machine box or something like that. Nowadays,
like a DR5 on my
nowadays
desk.
Most musicians are starting off with some sort of software application, whether it be GarageBand that came with their MacBook, or some like crack copy of Reason that they got or something, and they're usually starting with there, and then once they get, their feet in the water with music and kind of doing it, then it's like, I'd really like to get into some hardware, and then that's where they jump and come into like the MV. And having this on here actually makes it a lot easier for them to make the transition, because it's very much a familiar environment, just like working like a computer.
Yeah, and one of the things I found playing with my laptop and some of the demo copies of Reason and Sonar and all those other Cakewalk, etc., is that and I have a fairly powerful machine. I got 2 gigabytes of RAM, and I run out of horsepower in a hurry.
Right.
Because it's running Vista, and it just takes a while.
Right.
So going to a dedicated piece of hardware really focuses all the energies of the compute power
On that
to
one
music.
thing. That's it, just that one thing. And it's got a 40 gig internal hard drive on it. It comes with 128 megs of RAM out of the box, but you can expand that to 512, which is plenty of time for sampling and audio recording. And it also has USB on it, so you can connect this to your computer to drag and drop files to and from the unit. So if you have WAV or AIF files sitting on your desktop or on your computer, your sample library, you can easily drag those over.
So this on a Mac or a PC would show up as another file?
External hard drive.
A hard drive?
You can open
Very
it up
cool.
and back up, back and forth, bring in files and whatever it is that you want.
So
you can
this'll-
also import CDs off of the front CD drive too as well.
So this will play back WAV and AIF
Yes.
files, so it doesn't need to do any conversion.
No.
Great.
It's all straight raw
So now it
samples.
seems to me, I mean, just from what you've told me so far, it seems to me that this machine kind of is pretty much an all-in-one, and you really don't need any other tools other than maybe your stringed instruments to make some music, to
Yeah,
write
I mean,
songs.
it's really whatever you want to integrate with this machine. If you want to just stay in the box alone and just be completely sample-based, you can do an entire song production on here and plug in live instrumentation, have a guy like yourself doing bass, and then bring in another guy doing the vocals or whatever. And then I can use all my internal drum sounds and as well as keyboard sounds, which you can load on here and play chromatically. You know, all you got to do is hook up some sort of a MIDI keyboard controller to it, and you can play those sounds. And then I can mix it all down, master it, and then burn the final mix onto an audio CD. So from step one all the way to the final process of burning the complete song on CD, it's all in here.
Right, very
Now,
nice.
a lot of, a key part of a lot of master quality CDs are special effects like reverb, delays and stuff. Is that available with this product?
This has all the effects built right in. You got reverb and delay on separate. So you have independent delays and independent reverbs. And you have one separate effects blocks for multi-effects, which gives you a really nice library of different classic Roland effects.
Now,
Everything.
Can you apply those to an instrument that you're plugging into the device?
Of course. Like if I wanted to, this is what's really cool, put this to input, and let's say I wanted to run you through Guitar Multi, which would be like a Boss ME50. And route this to pretty big, right? And then you can edit this. So you can edit, and add
Very
different types
nice.
of drive stages. So you could do metal. You can put your effects. So there's so many different things that you can do, and of course you can also do compression. So again, it's just like having one of the ME50s, built right in. You could put this on the insert stage and track directly, do an audio track with it.
Guys in my band are going to think I've lost my mind when I show up with one of these.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really cool to be able to do that stuff.
Just drop it off and say, here, press play. I'll be back for my check at the end of the night.
And I know that you were talking about, like, you said you like the VS2480. Well, if you like the 2480, when you go into the mastering section, you basically have the mastering section of the 2480 built right in.
Very nice.
So you have multi-band compression, parametric EQing. And if you're not that great of an engineer, which a lot of people who are starting out in music don't really know too much about it, there's presets in there that you can choose that will master your track for you.
Which is
Right.
what I use for my, on my 2480.
And you can preview it, listen to it, and if you like it, apply it, and then it'll go ahead and bounce it down, and then burn the CD, and your song's done.
Wow.
So very
That's
simple.
very cool.
And then it's on MySpace and you're making
There you go.
hundreds of pennies.
Yeah, it's real simple.
Cool.
So-
Well, maybe you could kind of give us an idea of
Yeah.
how you make a song with one of these.
Sure. So the first thing that's really cool with the MV is the ability to get different types of feels and grooves for your drums, which is a big thing with this kind of a machine. So what I'll do is I'll lay down a simple drum track, and then I'll show you the different types of quantizing and how it's really cool on the MV that you can actually change and manipulate it all in real time. So let's set my tempo up here. automatically quantizing it to 16th note grid. But if I want, I can even change it right here, and if I want to shuffle it, so now it's doubling up on the kicks, and I can even adjust the strength. So if I want to drop this back, and we can even change the rate that it's shuffling at, so we can extreme. If I want to bring it back up. So it makes it really simple to get different types of feels for your drums all in real time. Another great thing is, as this is recording, you can always drop in and record at any time. You don't have to stop the sequencer. You can hit it again, puts it in a rehearsal mode. And so you can go back and check out other sounds. So if I want to bring this back in, so now it's got that nice shuffle on it. But the cool thing is, if I want, the MV also comes with templates, and you get 71 different templates. So here's quintuplets. If I want to do triplets.
Very cool.
No other drum machine out there, workstation sampler, will allow you to do this kind of stuff in real time and be able to hear it all.
And no, I don't like that.
Well, typically you would have to stop, apply it, and then listen, and then stop, undo it. Where on here, you can just go through different ones. If I want to do reggae, it's a really cool, where are we at? So heavy reggae with high accent. So even the velocities change on how the shakers come in, the kicks, everything changes up and down.
That's incredible, because you're on one track, you're recording this.
And it's still armed for recording.
You're on one track recording this, and yet you have multiple instruments being affected differently by the quantization.
Yeah, the quantization of it.
Wow.
Basically, it's just the
I'm
quantizing
in
and how
so
the
much
engine works on
trouble.
here. It's got a 480 res sequencer, so
Wow.
it really captures every nuance, of how you're doing. Typically, with other machines out there, like some of the older MPCs and stuff like that, they had a low res sequencer, which was 96 TPQN. So on here, we're using 480. So we can get that type of low res if we want, just by making adjustments on the quantizing, or we can also turn it off. And the reason why we have it at such a high res sequencer, it's great if you're, let's say like you take a Roland V drums and you run the MIDI out of the V drums into here. Well, with a resolution of 96, you're not going to capture every little thing that the drummer is doing,
Right.
because it's going to shift notes. But when you have a 480, res sequencer, that means between this downbeat and the next, the note can be placed 480 times between this and the next, as opposed to only 96. So you'll get the real nuance of the human feel a lot more on this
So
machine.
you can get an actual roll as opposed
Exactly.
to a pseudo roll.
Right, so it doesn't sound so robotic.
Right.
So that's why, with the 480, why that comes into play and why it's really cool. And sometimes for guys coming from a low res sequencer that's at 96 into the MV, sometimes they're like, oh, it doesn't sound right, the timing's not right. It's like, no, you just don't know how to use the quantizing right. All you need to do is set it up correctly. And the reason why is sometimes people don't really have rhythm, so they can't play to the metronome that well.
Right.
So with a low res sequencer that's doing 96,
It fixes that
it'll
for
fix
them.
it automatically because it'll pull it really hard.
Right.
Whereas on a 480, it's thinking that you want it to be loose. So if you're playing it off, it's going to move it just so slightly. But you can adjust that and have it do it real
Lock it
hard
down
if you
as
want
like.
to. You just got to set it
And one
up.
of the things I liked about what I was listening to is while it was locking it in, it was still locking it in with feel. It wasn't
Exactly.
saying chop, chop. It was da-da.
All robotic. So, and that's what's cool is that you can kind of massage the track without actually even stopping the sequencer or anything. So you can kind of get a feel, and then it allows you to just move on and start programming more drums. So, and the reason why this is cool is you also have audio phrases on here, and that's another big feature of the MV is being able to take audio phrases and loops and kind of creating remixes right on the fly. So let's say if you were to take something like classics. So if we took a little bit of Al Green. Okay, so we can copy this to different pads. So we can have now if I want to sync this, obviously if we play it against these drums, it's out of time. But one thing that's really cool with the MV is just tap the pad that you want and simply go right here to BPM sync. You switch this on.
Nice.
Hit another pad you want, sync that on, sync this on, and then you can even adjust the stretch type. So if we want, make some adjustments on it. Notice it's now slowed down. So now if we want, we can do it and remix it just by step recording these phrases in. So I can, let's see, I want to come in here and just, I don't even have to play it in real time. Then
So
move
just
this.
by hitting the button of the pad, you're locking that into that.
Yeah. Now we play this and we can adjust tempo and come down to our mixer. Now if we want to speed it up, still keeping the pitch the same. Slow it down. Speed it back up. So it makes it really easy to lock these samples in. Now, you can take these out, and you can do another really cool thing, which a lot of guys like to do. When you come into the quick edit mode on the MV, you can also bring those same samples up. So let's say we want to take this, and now we can use the auto chop mode of the MV. So if we use auto chop, and we use the divide mode, and I tell it I want to divide it 16 times equally onto the pads, dial in 16. Now you've got
Very
So
cool.
what it did is it rhythmically split it into 16 equal segments.
right of that whole
And you
loop.
can play any part of the segment anytime you
Yeah.
want.
And then you can say assign to patch, and this will now take those slices and convert it into an actual playable instrument in your instrument section now. And we can, you know, add some volume to it. We can put a little bit of delay, put a little bit of reverb on it. So now you can, so now if I want to come back onto here, onto our track, and we go here to our chop track and we simply assign it to that new instrument that we made. So there it is. And let's say we want to just solo this track. And now I'm just going to play the slices. And we can apply quantizing to that. So how the strength of it. Or we can even shuffle the slices. Speed it up a little bit. Bring our drums back in. Shuffle the drums to match it.
It would seem to me also that as a band, maybe you could take, you know, some stuff that you've already recorded and sample it into there and do some funky, cool things with them while your band is playing over that.
Oh, yeah.
Or have it behind the music that you're doing, or maybe on top of it for a certain effect.
Yeah, there's actually some things sometimes where I'll use the MV and I'll have a session player come in. So, like yourself right now with the bass, let's see if we get a little level going in. So one thing is that, of course, the MV is linear, so we can simply copy and paste this. And I can tell it, copy it once. And we'll set this up. Okay, so we basically got a 16 bar loop here that we're gonna record on. And we'll go to an audio track, and we'll set this up for direct record. And let's see if we wanna, is that tempo okay?
Yep.
Let's see if we can get a level real quick. Can you hear the metronome okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll be a 2-measure counted, and then we'll just do a quick 16 bar. So now we're tracking live audio.
2, 3, go.
So now we've got, come to our mixer here, and we can take a look at our audio track. And so let's say he's already gone home for the day. I can easily double click on this track, and again, BPM sync lock this, and slow him down. Speed it up. So that's one thing that's really cool. Or I can even course tune him. So I can change the octave that he's playing in.
So if he happens to be playing a fretless bass and he misses a note, you can go in and fix that?
And go and fix that. And we can do things like that. And again,
I need
this
that.
is just a single, single
vocals.
unit. Yeah, this is just a single unit production unit. We're doing this
Right.
all in without the use of a computer or anything. So this is really cool, for a lot of guys, that want to be able to do this. Now, another thing that's cool is if I want to remix, I can also right-click and I can copy this now as an audio phrase. So I can dump it right to an empty pad. And let's say we want to mute this, and now I have him as a sample on my pad. Then I can take his sample there, and let's say I want to normalize, and we'll replace.
You can't normalize me. It'll never happen.
Not you, but your bass playing.
Oh, well, all right.
And now we can do the same thing where I can say chop, auto chop, and I can either divide by 16.
Isn't there an auto shop down the street? Wow, he's playing my bass better than I play it.
So now I can replay his bass in any way that I want. And this is just, again, to get a different rhythmic feel. If he's already gone and I want to remix and try some new ideas, this is really an easy way to get a new take out of it without having to bring the session player back
Wow.
in. Or if I want to just create a whole new bass patch out of it, just an actual bass sound, you can auto chop and use the level feature, which looks at velocities. And now you've got like that one, and you can again take it to an empty patch, drop it in, and so here's our new sound. It's got a little bit of effect on it, and again we can come down to this track here and just again simply assign it. So now if we want, we can
Wow.
part that he played and went,
He's looking like,
okay, so
What do I do now?
So, you know, when you get the letter saying, hey, we used your track, and here's your royalty check, and it'll be
Yep.
played on the radio, and you go, listen, wait, where'd my track go?
where'd I play?
At which point you go, well, okay, I recognize the tone, and the check is good, so it's all good.
Yeah. So again, these are just really creative ways, and these are things that you can do on the MV that just really step it out from a lot of other machines out there, which is
Well,
why it's really popular.
And I think, and I'm getting the impression that it's way more powerful than we've had time to go into. We're at the end of our session today.
Oh wow, time flies.
Time
That
flies
is
when
what
you're
it
having
does.
fun. Can you just, again, put something, just a different kind of thing together for us for our credits here? Mike, thank you again for
No
coming
problem.
out, demonstrating for this. Folks, come down to the store. We have this on display for people to come and play and get comfortable with. I'm certainly going to spend more time with it because it's just an amazing piece.
So let's see.
Here we go.